Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Talking Brazil Ball, the podcast all about Brazilian football. We're getting to the business end of the Serie A season now. There's lots and lots to get through today. More action at the top with Fogo dropping points. The relegation battle is heating up to the hottest it can possibly go. And yeah, all sorts of cup finals and everything to get into. I don't know what you're laughing about, George, but I'm here. I'm James. I'm here as always with my co-host George, who seems to have a case of the giggles. What's got you there, George?
I have no idea, James. To be fair, yes, but there's plenty to get on with, isn't there? Of course, there is. As always, like you said, getting down now to the end of the season. Lots to do, lots to talk about. Like you said, cup final on the weekend. The final of it happened over the weekend, so I'm sure we'll touch on that as well. But before I get going, James, I'd just like to ask you, como vai?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you. Not bad. Steady away. It's very dark these days, isn't it? Things are, going towards kind of festive season now, really, aren't we? Full steam ahead. The nights are very long, these kind of long nights. It's not too cold, so that's all right. But yeah, just been ticking along, really. What have you been doing? Is your foot back to health now? You're back to full fitness?
Yeah, in a sense, James, it feels a bit better, but I'm still a little bit dodgy occasionally. But yeah, the nights are drawing in, aren't they? Cold nights, dark nights in the end, but dark about 4:30 now. So yeah, like you said, winter is coming definitely. And that means one thing as well, like we said, that the end of the Brazilian Serie A season is near as well. So yeah, lots to talk about. I'm okay. Obrigado. So we'll get on with it. Yes, I suppose. And I don't know, James. Of course, I will. I've got my quiz question to get on to you as well. So yeah, there's plenty to do.
Just before we do that, I think that there's some slight housekeeping issues. We did brag about how we've been able to get onto Spotify and everything last week. That didn't happen, did it, George? Do you want to tell the listeners why? Or
no, look, I mean, I just try to work out somewhere getting it on there. I mean, hopefully this episode will be on. So don't hold your breath, everybody. But hopefully it will be on. This episode will be on just audio. So it didn't happen last week, which was a shame. But hopefully this time we'll be able to get it sorted and on there over the weekend probably. So just watch out for it. Like I said, Spotify. Talking Brazil Ball, it is the new logo you're looking for when you search Talking Brazil Ball. The old episodes are on there as well, and on Amazon Music and Samsung Podcasts as well, amongst other ones as well. So have a look. Might put up a sort of, like I said, bit of housekeeping on the social medias just to notify people that we've gone to audio as well, only as well. So watch out for that, everybody. But yeah, that was good of you, James. Just doing a bit of housekeeping, a bit of mantentoa de casa.
Yeah, that's
Manutenção de casa.
Yeah,
so
that's the way to do it. Yeah, so like you said, George, I mean, let's get that up. We'll have a look out, and hopefully that'll be coming to you not too long. There is only 3.5 weeks, something like that, left of the Brazilian season. Again, the reason we're coming to you a bit later than usual on a Thursday again is because the game week has just ended this morning and the early hours. So that's the reason why, and it's going to be a little bit kind of messed up between now and the end of the season, which is I think the 8th of December. It's going to be a bit kind of here and there, so we're going to do the best we can to make sure we cover everything. Obviously, it's the time of the season everybody wants to know about, so we'll do our best to keep across it. But just before we do run down that latest list of fixtures, George, let's have your quiz this week. Then you were saying you've got one ready already, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, James. But just like I said, it is getting towards the end of it. I think I worked it out today. I think we might have about 5 episodes left of the season. And neither of them, so people who know Tuesdays to be Talking Brazil Ball Day, we won't be doing any on a Tuesday, just the way it's fallen for the rest of the season. So yeah, that'll probably be back next season, won't it?
Well, I think we can do the last show on a Tuesday, just because it runs over, doesn't it? The last game week is on a Sunday, so I think we can probably do that as usual, just to finish the season up actually. But we'll see. We'll let everybody know what's going on anyway. But on with the quiz, because we're 5 minutes in, George. The show hasn't even started yet.
Very true. Lots of waffling and talking, but all important business.
Waffling Brazil ball, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it is at this moment in time, James. Or some people might argue it always is, but there you go. So let's get on with the quiz question then. So obviously, James, unfortunately for me, it is a quiz question based around the cup final, and of course we know who won it. It was in the end Flamengo. Lots of unsavoury scenes, James, in the aftermath of the final and beforehand as well. I don't know if you've managed to see anything regarding that, but lots of the Galo fans basically they went bonkers at the end of the game, started letting off like bombs and stuff, and all sorts of trouble went on. One photographer even had his he broke his foot because he stood on one of these bombs when he tried to pick it up and throw it back into the crowd or whatever. It exploded on his foot, and he ended up going to hospital. He broke his foot basically, and he can't go back to work for a few weeks. He said that he thought his foot had exploded, so he was quickly to the hospital, and all sorts of unsavoury scenes. Really, Galo were a bit petty as well, and played their own anthem, I think, over when Flamengo got the cup. So they were lifting the cup to the Galo anthem. So I think there's a lot of them. They don't like each other, do they? The Flamengo fans, before the game, were rushing into the stadium, breaking down the barriers. Lots of people lamenting the security and everything at the MVR stadium as well. So yeah, lots of unsavoury stuff going on there in the cup final. But the MRV, sorry, not the MVR, of course. But the question is loosely based around the final. So the man who ended up getting the winner was, of course, Gonzalo Plata, the Ecuadorian lad, who he used to play for Real Valladolid, of course, James. And they were owned, of course. He did play under the ownership of Ronaldo, the legendary Ronaldo, Brazilian striker, of course. So my question is to you, James, about Ronaldo this week. He obviously had a decorated career in European football, probably lesser known to people over here with his time in Brazilian football. But what I want to know, James, he bookended his career. He started it and finished it in Brazil. What I want to know is who, first and foremost, which teams did he play for in Brazil, which I think you'll get. But the one that might be a little bit more tricky for you is how many goals did he score in Serie A?
Well, I think he started his career at Cruzeiro, and I believe, I'm trying to think now, the Corinthians.
Yeah, he finished at Corinthians. So he started at Cruzeiro, finished at Corinthians. But how many Serie A goals did he score for both collectively? Do you want it to be? It can be multi-choice if you like.
No, I can have a guess. I mean, I know he did quite well at Corinthians when he went back. I think he did pretty well, obviously, at Cruzeiro, but he didn't play loads, I don't think, before he left. I don't know, about 65.
It's a lot less than that, actually. It's 30 goals he got in Serie A across his career. So not too many, but he didn't play that long in Brazil, did he? Obviously, more known for his time in European football, obviously. But yeah, there you go, James. That's a quiz question of the week, loosely based around the cup final, but not really. But
I mean, I don't really know how you got there from the cup final. I mean, it was well thought out, but it was. I thought I couldn't guess what it was going to be. But there you go. Always worth mentioning Il Fenomeno, because what a player he was. Anyway, thanks for that, George. Let's crack on then, and let's let everybody know what's the results, what's been going on in Serie A since we last spoke.
Yeah, of course, James. So it started actually there was a game on Wednesday, the 30th of October, which happened. Inter 1, Flamengo 1. Then we had. Sorry, I've gone too far down. It's. It started.
No,
it started on went on Friday the 8th of November. I completely lost my track there. Inter 2, Fluminense 0. Saturday the 9th of November. Palmeiras 1, Grêmio 0. Botafogo 0, Cuiabá 0. Vitória 1, Corinthians 2. Gio 0, RB 0. Cruzeiro 2, Criciúma 1. Fortaleza 3, Vasco 0. Juventude 2, Bahia 1. Sao Paulo 2, PR 1. And then Wednesday, like you mentioned, James, early hours of this morning, it finished here. Flamengo 0, Galo 0.
It certainly did. And yeah, it feels a long time ago that the game we started, but I knew it wasn't that long ago. But it did start with Inter. You were absolutely right in that one, George. And of course, I did pick Inter for the game of the week. I can't actually. I mean, I was trying to remember, and I looked at it, and I thought I can't actually remember what my justification quite was for this one, because I think it was just Inter going brilliantly at the moment, and Flu are obviously still in a bit of peril. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, really wasn't a hugely kind of impactful game. I mean, it finished in the end 2-0 to Inter, like you said there. So obviously a very good result for me, and another fantastic win for Inter, who are just keep on going, George. They're unbeaten, I think, in 14 matches now in the Brazilian Serie A. They're just, maybe that's all competitions. It's either way, it's a very impressive run that Roger Mercado has got them on. And obviously we were waiting on that result from Flamengo just this morning to see whether Inter would be finishing the game week in the top four for, I think, probably the first time all season. But Flamengo got the points, so they are actually level with Inter in 59 points, fourth and fifth. But even so, I mean, Inter just continue to roll on. The goals here were from Borre, who I must say has really picked up in this second half of the season, like pretty much everybody at Inter, really. I think he's got 8 now in the Brazilian Serie A, which looking at the top scorers, is a low scoring season for many. It's not a bad tally, really, you'd have to say. And then Bruno Henrique, the veteran, came up with the second goal, 2 second half goals. So it wasn't necessarily a straightforward game for Inter. But you know, they just keep on grinding them out, don't they? You can't help but be impressed. And George, I know we've spoken, we've kind of joked a little about how Wesley, you know, famously said that they can go and win the title, the dreaming of the title. That was probably about 7 or 8 games back, I would imagine. And there's only 5 to go now. They are 9 points off the top, so they're not a million miles away at all. And Roger Mercado is actually, you know, thinking about this. So they asked him after the game if you know, he is thinking about it, and this is what he said. It's impossible not to look at the table. The first thing I do when I get to the changing rooms is open my cell phone and look at the table. We know it's difficult, but we need to stay in the fight. So, you know, he can't wait to get in there and just open up FOTMob or whatever he's using there and check what's going on, which for me, I don't know. I don't want my manager doing that if I'm, an Inter fan. I don't think that's particularly the best way to go about it, but I guess there's no harm in it. Maybe it's spurring them on to keep on going, but you have to say that is, to me, an impossible dream. I mean, the maximum that Inter can get now is 74 points, so Botafogo are 2 wins away from that tally in the 5 games. So it's not impossible, but it's very, very improbable that both they and Palmeiras will drop enough points, and Fortaleza even, to get ahead of them. But yeah, they keep going, George.
Yeah, they just keep rolling on, don't they, James? Like you said, you were right. 14 unbeaten in the league. It's an incredible. They've only lost 1 of 16 games in the league now. Yeah. So it's an absolute amazing run. Like I said, Super Mercado, he's really got them going. Like you said, Borre's come on second half of the season. Well, they all have, really. And you don't know where they're going to even lose a game next. You know, they've got Vasco next, RB to follow that. There is a big game, you know, if Mercado goes on about winning the title. There's a huge game, James, the penultimate game at home against Botafogo, whether it's done and dusted by then, whether they're, you know, vying for the title at that stage, who knows, but that's a big game. You know, we seem to speak a lot, James, about Inter recent times. And yeah, what more can you say? They're rolling on. Mercado's doing a great job. and it's I truly believe they will finish in the top four. Flamengo do seem a little bit on and off, and they've won something now, so I think that they'll be fully focused on getting the top four. But I must admit, Inter, I think they've got it. Really, I think they'll get it. To be honest.
Well, they've virtually secured a top six place. They are 12 points ahead of Cruzeiro, who are seventh, which is pretty amazing, really, because that would have been, a distant goal, really, by when Supermercado came in. It felt like a long way off, but they've already virtually secured that. Sao Paulo are chasing them hard, it has to be said. They're on 57 points. They got another win again. So it's those three, really. Fortaleza are 4 points ahead, and they won't be sitting too comfortably given looking at the table on paper, they are probably the weakest team up there. So obviously it's not borne out that way this season, but they'll still be feeling like there's work to do for them to guarantee that Libertadores place without the qualification rounds. But yeah, fantastic for Inter. I mean, from Flu's point of view, George, they just can't quite get going. I mean, they did have that little run where they looked to have pulled themselves out of relegation trouble. They've now gone 3 without a win. They've lost 2 of those. As we know, it's so tight down the bottom. They're currently in 14th. They're only 1 point above Red Bull, who are in 17th place in that final relegation spot. So not good numbers for Flu, whatever way you look at it. I was reading that they've scored 68 goals in all competitions, and it's their lowest tally since 2000. So 23, 24 seasons was 76. So they've got 5 games left to score 8 goals to save themselves from recording the worst ever performance in terms of goals scored for all competitions. I don't think they're going to do that, to be honest. I don't know where they're going to get those goals from. Fortaleza next, that looks difficult for them as well. And that's the nature of the table at the minute, isn't it? You can get pulled down by one bad result.
Yeah, 1 or 2 bad results, James, and you back into it. And like I said, just a point above RB, they'll be sitting very uncomfortably. And I bet Mano Menendez, he can't wait for the season to just finish now. And, like I said, 3 without a win. Before that, they had a couple of wins, I think, on the bounce. So, they had 3 wins on the bounce. So they probably thought they were done and dusted there. But it doesn't work like that. The table, like I said, is so tight, James. And every point now is precious. Even if you get a point, it's it's like a precious one, isn't it? It's getting to that time of the season where every point is picked up is a good one. Like I said, only 1 point above it, and you've really got to say now. Hopefully, they can get out of that really silly sort of petulance that they've had, and get on and try and at least have a good end to the season. I don't believe they'll be in the relegation zone come the end of it. So it will be close, and they've had a horrible season. But Manu Menendez has done a great job on the whole, really, from where they were when he came in, to boost them up and take them within contention of actually, staying in the division, and also maybe even going on and getting Sudamericana qualification, which isn't out the grasp at all. They're only 2 points away from Gremio in 12th position at the moment, so it's within the grasp. I don't personally think they're going to get relegated, but it will be very tight.
Yeah, it will be. I'm interested to hear if they do stay up, if you'll ever pronounce Mano's name right, but I think I might be waiting a while on that one.
I struggle with his name, James. I don't know why.
Menendez. It's Menezes. Just swap the N for a Z.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to like I said a while ago back. I'm going to call him Mano. I think just for.
Well, you used to.
I did, yeah. And then I started to pronounce it fine, and then I've just gone back to my old ways. So
you could just call him Mano Menezes.
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 Menezes. There you go.
Menezes.
Yeah, Menezes. Well, yeah, whatever. But that's his name. But his team, playing a bit better, whatever his name is, he's got them playing a little bit better than they were under definitely Denise. And, from where they were, when he came in, like I said, he's done a great job to boost them into 14th position. I mean, all the Flu fans will just want this season done, stay up and forget about it, and move on to next time. And hopefully, for their point of view, it will be a better one.
Yep. I think it will as well. Just get over the line at this point. Another team who are down there at the moment, George, who did get a win this weekend, are the team that you're going to take a bit of a closer look at now. So you went with a big game down at the bottom. Well, for Juve, obviously Bahia are not down there, but they're on a really difficult run themselves, Bahia. So it was Juve against Bahia, George, and Juve came up with an absolutely enormous win, didn't they? So up out of the relegation zone now, and we didn't mention it last time actually, but they do have a new manager. So what can you tell us about Mr. Felipe? What is it, Matias? Fabio Matias.
Fabio Matias. So there he is behind me, James, behind my left shoulder there. Fabio Matias. It's his second game. Like I said, it did escape our attentions, both of us, last week, that Javi Ventura had been sacked. And and Fabio Matias had come in. He oversaw Juventus' 3-0 defeat to Fortaleza at home last week. He gets his first win of his reign, and such an important time to get that. So they're out of the relegation zone, like you rightly said. A point above RB Bragantino. They're in 16th position. Fabio Matias. Fabio Matias is only his second ever managerial position, James, in charge of a first team. Anyway, he's very much a youth team manager. He's bounced around a lot of clubs in Brazil. I think actually was at Inter actually for a time. In the youth setups of various different teams. He was, though notably, last season, he was the assistant at Botafogo under the previous regime before Artur Jorge came in. He was the assistant, and he did actually have a spell as interim manager in which he only lost one of the 10 games that he was in charge of. So wow. that I think boosted his sort of reputation up quite high. So so they appoint him in charge with what now with what 8 games to go it was at the time. Maybe it's just the boost in E because they were on a horrible run of form. James, no win. That's the first win I think in 7 games now for Juventude. So it was a badly needed win. But Matias seems to have hit the ground running a little bit. It's a really important win. I won't talk about the game too much because I know that we're going to be talking about it a little bit later on, but it was a couple of absolutely wonderful goals here, James, from my point of view, to win the game for Juventude.
Let's go. I mean, because, there's no point coming back to it. We're covering the game, so let's cover it. It's a big part of the game. The goal of the round winner is in this game, a quite brilliant one as well. So they did go behind, didn't they? Though they were before the goals came in, they were losing, were they not?
Yeah, they were losing within 2 minutes of the game starting. James, second minute of the game, Paulie Souza got on the end of the cross by your favourite man, Luciano Rodriguez. James, he got an assist. Lovely cross in, lovely first time finish from Corley, and Bahia 1-0 up. Then themselves, like you mentioned, are on a horrible run of form and badly need a win. Rogério Ceni's under a great deal of pressure there, but they did. They came back, did Juventude, as the game sort of went on to the final knockings of it. 2 goals in 9 minutes. And this is the first, like you said, the goal of the round. We've incorporated both the game of the round, game week, my game week, and the goal of the round in one here now. Then, so it was Barbosa, 70th minute of the game, and he, like I said, this is a tremendous goal. Lucas Barbosa, he's the top scorer now for Juventude. He's got 5 goals this season, but it's a wonderful goal. It's a cross over the top. But it's a cross over the top. Ronaldo actually assisted both of them. I didn't actually realise that, James, but he got an assist, the centre midfield player, and it's a cross from the left side. He's on the right side of the box. He chests it down, and he just like nonchalantly, side kicks it into he just passes it basically over the goalkeeper and into the net. It's just like a side foot it's so casual, and it's such a nice bring down on his chest to then sort of just lift it over the goalkeeper. And that's it. They're back in the game. But what was your thoughts on this? Because I think we're quite unanimous with this, James. I don't think there was any real other contender, to be honest.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, there was a couple of decent goals. Breno Lopez, I think Fortaleza was a nice one, pretty good run from his own half and a finish, but it was nothing, not a patch on this. Lucas Barbosa, for me, I'd put this as high as being up there as a goal of the season. I think it's that good. I think you're doing him down. I don't think you're doing him quite up enough there, George. You know, the takedown on the chest isn't just any takedown. I mean, he's off balance, he's falling backwards, and he just brings it down as he's kind of stumbling a little bit, and almost as he's kind of correcting his footing, he just lifts his right foot back up and just caresses it over the keeper, and it bounces on the goal line virtually, and then into the side netting. And to get it in from that angle, the touch on the chest, and then the finish from such a tight angle, so perfectly weighted. I mean, I was blown away when I saw this. I really thought it was it's not a goal that you see very often, and he took it so well. He didn't rush it, and like you said, this wasn't in the 5th minute of the game, or it was 20 minutes to go, must-win game for Juventude, really. And he's just gone and pulled that out of the hat. And for me, that was just a staggeringly good goal.
It was a lovely goal. As soon as I saw it, James, I knew that was it. That has won. Like you said, he was going away from the goal, wasn't he? As he kind of chested, as he kind of controlled it on his chest, and then to almost on the same kind of movement. I don't know if you've seen it from a different angle, but it looks even better from a closer in angle. Just the way he kind of controls on his chest and, like you said, caresses it with his side foot into the side netting of the goal. The goalkeeper had no chance at all.
No, I mean, he just wasn't expecting it, I don't think so. No. You'd have thought if he's going to shoot, he's just going to put his laces through it and hammer it, back across at the keeper. But no, he just pulls that out. And it's to the presence of mind to do that. It wasn't under a great deal of pressure in the box, it must be said. The defending wasn't amazing. But again, you wouldn't have thought he was going to pull that out, and the speed of thought just to do it is really impressive. It looks like he's possibly on loan from Santos, I think, George. He seems to have been out on loan for a good few years. I don't know if he's out on loan 2 years in a row at Juventude. He's only 23. I think it looks like he's maybe coming back to Santos, who of course have been promoted. So the player to watch out maybe next season.
Yeah, I think so. As far as I can tell, he's on loan from Santos. Was on loan at Curitiba for a bit last season. Didn't play a great deal, but he's played virtually the whole season. He's a big, like I said, he's top scorer for Juventude this time. Definitely, potentially, like you said, going back to Santos, who are, of course, going to be playing in Serie A again, straight back up from Serie B. So let's wait and see. Will they get their man back, or what? Juventude will have something to say, I'm sure, because he's really impressed. It was a marvellous goal, this, and I agree with you, actually. I think it is probably up there with one of the best of the season in terms of technique, for sure. It definitely is. I mean, everybody loves a blockbuster goal, don't they, from smack from outside the area into the top corner or whatever, but this is technically, it was very, very good, and he deserves that, fully deserved it for me, the goal of the round. It wasn't going to go to anybody else in my mind, that one. But after that, James, 9 minutes after that, the man named Bill, he got the winner, as it turned out. And I think, again, that was his first goal of the season for Juventude. Bill is a 27-year-old striker. He hasn't played that many, to be fair. It's his first ever. It's his first ever time in the top division. This fella, and he came off the bench in the. Well, he came on in the first half, and I don't know what you thought of this goal either, James, but I quite liked it as well. Again, it was a lovely through ball from Ronaldo. I don't think it was. It was definitely meant this from right at the very back. Defense to attack. He just threaded the ball through. I thought the fella Bill did exceptionally well to lob the goalkeeper first and foremost, and then managed to just nick it in before it went out of play and he ended up being the winning goal of the game. And I don't know what you thought of that one.
Yeah, a bit of a strange goal as well, and not one that you see very often. He almost like you'd expect he's one-on-one with the keeper. You'd expect him just to finish it, perhaps, or lob it over the keeper if you need. But he lobs it over as like a pass to himself, doesn't he? And it goes away from the goal. He lobs it over and he really lifts it high because the keeper's still up, and then he chases it, and the keeper almost gets back, and even the finish is a bit kind of unorthodox. He gets his leg up quite high, and he seems to kind of go with his wrong foot as well, but he prods it home. And you say it was his first goal of the season, George. It was his first goal for over a year, I think. He's had a bit of a tough time with injuries from what I can gather, and I'm not sure why he's called Bill there. I honestly don't know where that comes from. I mean, his real name is Gabriel Tagliari, so I'm not sure why he's referred to as Bill. In the report I was reading from Globo, they don't call him Bill at all. They just call him Gabriel Tagliari, and so I'm not really sure where that comes from. There must be some kind of story there, but yeah, he was quite emotional. I think after the game, it was a big moment for him, obviously, to get what was an absolutely brilliant win for Juventus, and something like, as you say, for Matias can perhaps propel him and them up for the last 5 games of the season. I mean, still, even if they can stay up, I know it's been a bit of an up and down season. They had a very, very good first half of the season. If they can stay up and push on, it's still a big success story, no matter how they do it.
Yeah, it's just all about staying up, innit? You know what it's like, first season back in a top division. You've just got to survive. That's all you've got to do. And whatever way they do it, they can be absolutely commended for their efforts in it, because it's been a real difficult road for them. But I think both of us have enjoyed watching them, and sort of I've been a little bit rooting for them a little bit in terms of can they stay up, and I think we both sort of hope that they will do. So to see them just outside the relegation zone at the moment is quite good, really. So I hope they can continue, like you said, to rise up the table in the 5 that remain and secure, safety for another season in the Brazilian Serie A, because I think that Matias has had a bit of a mixed reception from the fans. A lot of people were saying, I saw like welcome to Serie B and things like this, but I think other people saw his work at Botafogo and thought, well, yeah, maybe it's a good appointment, sort of thing. So it was received in a mixed sort of bag of emotions from the fans. But I think they'll stay up. I've always said, I think you have as well, James, that I don't think really they'll be in the conversation at the end of the season for relegation. As far as Bahia, James, on the other side of the coin, they're in a real rut and in a real run of bad form now. 5 without a win. I think they've only won 2 games in 10 league matches. So Rogério Ceni is under a lot of pressure now. The fans, like you said recently, have kind of lost patience with him, and it seems like they definitely have. A lot of people there's a lot of clown emojis going on in the comments and things like this. And Ceni, who I think might have said he had some sort of link with Guardiola, how he admired Guardiola. I think a lot of the fans were kind of taking the mick out of him in the comments below and below the kind of posts on social media of the game, and just they're very frustrated. It seems, it's not a good moment for Ceni, and he's got a real. I think James, if they might give him a pass because they're playing Palmeiras next, but if they've got a game against PR, the following one. If he loses that, I think he's done. Regardless of so close to the end of the season, I think he'll be gone.
Yeah, it could well be. Like, it doesn't sound like a good environment there. I mean, it's a shame. Obviously, anybody who's been listening throughout the whole season will know how highly we rated Bahia throughout that first half of the season, and they were the story of the campaign really before Fortaleza had their rush up the table. Bahia were up there as an early kind of title. You can't call them a title contender because obviously it was so early in the season, but they were towards the top of the table. Ceni, obviously, everything he was doing seemed to be working with his with the changes he was making in game and that kind of thing. And it's just fallen apart. I was reading that I think the second half of the season this year has been even worse than their second half of the season last year, which is when obviously they stayed up by 1 place above the relegation zone. But they've been in even worse form this year than they were back then when they were at the bottom of the table. So I think they've obviously had a real bounce at the start of the season for whatever reason that, the wheels have fallen off a bit. And you do wonder whether Senny's got his eye on maybe another job. I don't know. He does seem to be quite highly rated still. I mean, regardless of what happens, they've still had a decent season. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? They're in 8th. They need to be careful that they don't drop out of that Sudamericana qualification. But, they've got an 8-point cushion over Vitoria in 13th. And at this stage of the season, that seems like a big ask for Vitoria and the teams below them to get to that. So I would say they'd be fine with that. And at the start of the season, that would have been a happy enough season for them, wouldn't it? But you could be right. I think from Bahir's point of view, they have to be a little bit careful and not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They need to look and say, right, we've had a good season. Do we? Let's not burn down everything that we've built here and go with another manager who could take them down next year.
Well, yeah, this is it, James. Well, it's a smashing season in the end. Like you said, they finished a point above Santos last season, who finished in the relegation zone. So they're a point above the relegation zone, and now they're in 8th position with 5 games to go. For me, I wouldn't want to change it. I know the 6 games without a win. 5 games without a win. It's frustrating, but so close to the end of the season. I just leave it and say, hey, we're probably going to pick up maybe 1 or 2 wins in those games, possibly. We'll probably be all right for Sudamericana qualification. Let's stick with Senny and see what he can do. But as well as I do now what Brazilian football is kind of like, and they don't seem as patient perhaps as maybe they should be, which football is generally like that now, isn't it? But I personally can see him going if they haven't got a result from that game with PR, but we'll wait and see. One thing to know outside of the field, James, from Bahia, and we like to talk about football shirts, don't we, here on the pod? And special edition shirts. Well, Bahia have got one for themselves now, which they will be wearing in the home game on Wednesday against Palmeiras, and it's to celebrate Black Awareness Day, James, which happens actually on Wednesday, the 20th of November. It's every year they celebrate this on the 20th of November, and Bahia have released a special edition shirt. It's a nice blue colour, all blue colour, in collaboration with the Brazilian artist Carlinhos Brown, who is from the area. Candiol, I think it's called. The name of the shirt is Candiol as well, which is the place where he's from. So he loves Bahia, and he's created this shirt as part of the Black Awareness Day as well. So they will be wearing that in the home game against Palmeiras. So go and check it out. It's a lovely shirt, to be fair. I don't think they'll ship over here, unfortunately, but it'd probably set you back just over about £40 if it was to. So.
Well, that's not bad at all, really. That sounds like a good shirt. Hopefully, it might bring about a turnaround in fortunes, but let's wait and see. Wouldn't hold our breath on that too much. Moving on, George, then, let's look at the player of the round, because I thought there were a couple of, not too many contenders, really, but I wanted to touch on Garo again of Corinthians. And I just wanted to speak on Corinthians just very briefly, because I spoke about him last week when we covered Corinthians for the game of the week. He's in really decent form. He got 2 assists here in this game, which ultimately were the 2 goals, which won them a massive 3 points against Vitoria. 2 nice assists, a nice little flick round the corner. I think it was Yuri Alberto again who scored, wasn't it? The first one. He's another man in fantastic form. And then the second one was a really good through ball for Memphis Depay, your man George, who got the winner. So just briefly before we do the play of the round, I thought Garo was in the mix for that. And Corinthians, I would call them safe now.
Yeah, I think Garo, like I said, he had a really good game last week as well, didn't he? I think he got a goal and an assist in that one, didn't he? Like you said, so he's in good form. They're in good form, Corinthians, and I'd have to agree. That's three wins in a row in the league, I think, isn't it? So in fact, no, it's 4 wins in a row, isn't it now in the league? So they're in real good form. I would say I'd agree with you completely, James. I think they're safe now. Yeah, it was a big win over Vitoria, and I think Ramon Diaz hasn't got really From the outside looking in, I don't think he's got the credit that he probably deserves. He's really galvanised the club, and obviously the addition of Memphis Depay looks like a really, really solid one now. I think we questioned it when he came in, but fair play to him. I think he's got 3 goals now in the league, and he's and an assist as well. So he's contributed in the short time he's been there. But I think Ramon Diaz deserves a lot of credit as well, because he's really galvanised the team from the look of it, and they're starting to look up the table now instead of down it. And I think maybe they probably will end up with Sudamericana qualification, which is fantastic from where they have been for the majority of the season, really. So fair play to them. They've really started to turn the gear up, and Vitoria have been in fabulous form themselves, so that wasn't an easy game to win either. Having to come from behind earlier on as well. I mean, I think again we talk about Barbosa at Juventude, and maybe he's got suitors for next season. The man Alejandro, James, surely has to be in a conversation for teams having a look at him. To be fair, he's got 10 goals in the league now, and that's not far off Estevao, is it really? So I know he's on loan from RB Bragantino, who must be absolutely cursing their luck really with that decision. But surely, if Bragantino go down, I don't think there'll be. I think he'll have quite a lot of suitors, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they're probably right. Looking at the actual player of the round, then it was relatively straightforward decision on this one as well. So we went with Caio Jorge of Cruzeiro. He got himself a goal and an assist, George. A nice little finish from a really nice ball, actually, from Matias Pereira, who has been a shining light for Cruzeiro for the whole season. And then a nice ball through to Gabriel Veron for the winning goal as well. So this was, we always take into account the gravity of the performance and what it means for the team as well. And then Cruzeiro really needed this, to be honest. I mean, they're not in any trouble, but they have been on a really poor run of form. They do obviously have the Copa Sudamerica final on the way, which is coming on the 23rd, so a week on Saturday. But yeah, they were in poor form, and they did need this. Diniz needed this, didn't he? I think it was his first win. It was his first win in Serie A. 8 games they haven't won in Serie A for, so a big one. And Caio Jorge came up trumps for them.
Yeah, I think we haven't really spoken about Cruzeiro in much positive light at all, James. Sometime, particularly when Diniz has come in, like you said, first win in 8 games. That's quite incredible. His first win of his reign there, and it was much needed, wasn't it? Really, not that they're in any real danger of doing a great deal, are they? Now they're sitting quite nicely in 7th, they're 10 points behind 6th place Sao Paulo. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, really, are they? Now they're pretty much set where they are in the season. In Sudamericana qualification is pretty much theirs now, and that's where they'll stay. But you've got to get wins on the board. And Caio Jorge had a really good game in this one, James. Good input. It was a nice goal that he stole ahead of, like you said, a nice goal, wasn't it? Nice ball in for Pereira, nicked in front of the goalkeeper, and then a nice little assist for him. He's an interesting character as well, James, only 22 years of age. He left Brazil. He started up at Santos, and he left Brazil. He went to Italy to play for the old lady, James, Juventus. So he went to Juventus at a young age, only a handful of games for their first team over a few years, and now he's back in Brazil with Cruzeiro. Spent the season on loan last season again in Italy with Crotone, who are really struggling now, looking like they might go down again to Serie C in Italy. Well, it's early days in the season, but the bottom of the table currently in the Italian Serie B. But Caio Jorge doing well. For Cruzeiro, he demanded a bit of a fee as well back to Brazil. I think he was about 7 million euros potentially. Cruzeiro had to pay to bring him back to Brazil from Juventus, and I think Juventus in 2021 as well, James, they spent about 3 million euros on him as well. So he's commanded a little bit of a fee, really, over his young career so far. But yeah, great game for him. I know he had his infant daughter as well with him at the game, I think, on over the weekend as well. So big night for him, and fair play to him. And he's probably one of the first Cruzeiro players we've mentioned for some time, James, isn't it? Isn't he on the pod? Really, we don't seem to mention them, like I said, in any positive light since Denise has arrived, really.
No, I think we have touched on Caio Jorge before. I can't remember what the context was, but we did speak about him because I remember him looking at him being at Juve and stuff. Yeah, he's done pretty well, 6 goals, 22 games. And Cruzeiro themselves, I feel like they might be one to watch for next season. I mean, I've been burned before for backing Denise's team this season, but I'm going to make the same mistake again. Not to that extent, but I feel like they'll do well. I mean, to say they've been in such a poor run of form, sitting in 7th is pretty handy. They'll be disappointed that they haven't done better, but obviously they can qualify, I believe, for the Libertadores by winning the Copa Sudamericana. They are favourites, I think, for the final against Racing. So, yeah, I think they've got some exciting plans, it seems, in the transfer market. Gabriel Barbosa is joining. I think that's pretty much done deal. So that's obviously a very high-profile signing, and I was reading that he's going to double his salary from what he's earning at Flamengo and become potentially the top earner in Brazil, which apparently at the moment is Memphis, and he's perhaps made good on that, like I said, given that contribution that he's made. But Gabigol has obviously had a bit of a mixed season. Well, a poor season, really. He's been frozen out to some extent at Flamengo. But yeah, he's going to rock up at Cruzeiro. And I was also reading, George, that John Arias, who I know you're a fan of at Flu as well, the Colombian winger, is potentially going there, as is Canobio, who we haven't spoken about for quite a long time, actually, on the pod. Obi-Wan Canobio at PR, who's really fallen away this season, but he's potentially going to be at Cruzeiro as well. I don't think there's anything concrete just yet, but yeah, it looks like they're really making some moves, big plans for Denise's team.
Well, yeah, the building's quite a decent team now. I was reading about Gabigol. Yeah, I remember now reading about that. He's finished at Flamengo. He announced it after the cup final win, and I think he got in a bit of trouble as well during that game with Galo as well. A bit of handbags with the Galo players, but yeah. So that's a fabulous signing because if I know he was under a bit of trouble, wasn't he? He had a bit of trouble towards the start of the season, didn't he? But if they can get him firing in goals, then that's a great signing with Canobio as well. With John Arias, like you said, I am a fan of him as well, and he's done all right at Flu in a struggling Fluminense side this season as well. So that's with Denise as manager, those bigger name players in there, with the likes of Caio Jorge as well, chipping in with goals, Matias Pereira as well. They'll do well, like you said. Maybe they are one to watch for next season, James. If they do win the Sudamericana, get into the Libertadores, then the sky's the limit potentially with those new players, a new manager, a full season there. Let's wait and see. But it's worth mentioning as well that Caio Jorge does seem to enjoy the Sudamericana games, and he has scored quite a number of goals in this season's Sudamericana, including the 2 goals, James, that won them the semi-final against Lanús. He scored in the first leg, and then he won the game in Argentina in the second leg. So he seems to like that competition. Let's see if he can go one better and score one in the final and they can win. I mean, that happens next weekend, doesn't it? Next Saturday as we record. So let's wait and see what happens there. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know where that's happening. Actually, it's just a one-legged thing. I know they have done 2-legged in the past, but it is just a one-legged thing. So yeah, like I said, I think they are favourites, and Caio Jorge will definitely play a part. Gabriel Veron as well is another young player who like I said, got what turned out to be the winner against Criciúma there. He's only 22. I think he's on loan from Porto actually, so he might well be going back, but we'll see if they can strike some kind of agreement to keep him around. For Criciúma, not much to say really, George. I think they're the same as Juventude, a little bit similar to Vitória. They're in that kind of group of teams who are still in a bit of trouble, but feel like they might just do enough. So, without a win, they do need to pick up a result. As you said, a point even could be big for them in their next game. They are playing Vitória, so that if they can win that, they jump ahead of them, 4 or 5 places. So, yeah, we'll see if they can pull the socks up a little bit. But the Cruzeiro with the story, and they head into that final. Have got one game before that, but they head into that in better form than they've been looking. So a nice win for Cruzeiro. And let's move on to the young player then, George. There weren't, again, too many candidates for this one. You've mentioned one who perhaps was the closest, which was Luciano Rodriguez. I mean, again, if it was he got the assist, and it was a really nice ball in, obviously, for Bahia. He won it last week. Esteval won it the week before. And once again, it was perhaps between Rodriguez and Esteval. It wasn't very close. Esteval got the winner for Palmeiras, George, and essentially kept the title fight alive, didn't he?
Well, yeah, just before we talk about Esteval, James, yeah, you were asking of where the finals happening in the Sudamericana next Saturday. It's happening at the Estadio General Pablo Rojas, which is, I think, is in Paraguay. So, yeah, it's a Paraguayan stadium. So that's where that final is happening. But, yeah, Esteval, what more can we say about him, James? It was, like you said, it was not really competition this week. You might have said Rodriguez, but really not really. Goals trump assists, don't they, in our game, really. And there were no other candidates at all. And what more can you say about him? Brazil play tonight, don't they? He's back in the Brazilian setup. They play tonight against Venezuela in Venezuela. So let's wait and see if he plays any part for Brazil. But as far as Palmeiras goes, I think that's 12 goals now in the season for a 17-year-old. What more superlatives can you use? This was a tap in, wasn't it? I think the goalkeeper fumbled it and he just kind of tapped it in. But a goal's a goal. You've got to be in that position to get the goal. And he did. And he's carrying that team. Like you said, he's keeping their hopes alive. Fogo messed up, didn't they? Drew unforgivably, really, at home to Cuiabá. So they'll be really disappointed with that, because that would have put distance still between them and Palmeiras. As it is, Palmeiras got a little bit of a reprieve now, and they're only sitting, 4 points behind them now. So, it's anybody's game. Fortaleza also got to win again. They will fancy the chances still with Botafogo drawing that game. They're only 5 points behind. So, 5 games to go. Let's wait and see. But Esteval, fabulous player for this sort of level. And I'm excited to see when he actually finally gets to the Premier League, because we've seen they've spoken about him for so long now and spoke about him so many times. It seems like a long way off that he gets to the Premier League, James. He'll be there soon, and let's wait and see how he can affect that.
Yeah, it just it shows just how much Palmeiras are relying on him these days. I mean, it's symbolic, really. He comes up with that goal. I mean, they needed to get the win with Botafogo dropping points. It was imperative that they capitalised on that, and it was ticking into the last 15 minutes of the game. And obviously, like you said, nothing special about the goal, but he had to be there. He was in the right position, and it wasn't a necessarily a huge easy finish. He had to rearrange his feet a bit, and it was a bit kind of awkward looking in the end. But yeah, 12th goal of the season. He's sitting pretty by himself at the top of the scoring chart. He's also level with Rodrigo Garo, who obviously we've hailed there in terms of assists as well. So those two are on 8 assists apiece. So Esteval is clear at the top of the scoring charts. He's level at the top of the assist charts. I mean, that's a player who's doing everything he can to win you a title. And as such a young player, as 17 years old, it's absolutely ridiculous what he's doing, frankly. So yeah, well, I mean, we have spoken about him a lot, and it will be a shame when he does eventually leave, really, because he's probably the biggest talent that has come through in Brazil for probably a couple of years, really, and I'm including Hendrick in that, really, as well. So I think he's a sensational player, and he looks so mature already, and he's kept them right in that. I still think it's the Fogo's to lose. 4 points is still a decent cushion with 5 games to go, but that'll put the pressure on, given the nature of that result against Cuiabá at home. They'll be feeling the pressure, the fans, knowing what happened last year, knowing that big Libertadores final on the horizon as well. Yeah, they could have really done with winning that, but Esteval's ramped up the pressure on them, and fair play to him. Another young player of the round award for him. I mean, He's obviously the young player of the season. I don't know. He might even be the player of the season. There's a huge argument for him there. So we'll have to see what we do with that. But I'm sure we'll get to that when we get there. Maybe somebody will come up trumps in the last 5 games. Just on Gremio, George, I mean, there's not much to say really on them as well. They're one of those teams who've kind of fizzled out in the middle of the pack. I did read that their performance was actually described as embarrassing football in the media. So that the media weren't happy. It apparently could have been 6 or 7-0 this game. They were that bad, and Palmeiras kind of squandered a few. So just a word on them, that they're not quite out of trouble yet, but they're playing for nothing at this stage, aren't they? Although they'll want that Copa Sudamericana place, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, this is it, James. They've got a chance to get Sudamericana from where they were. Again, it's like with Fluminense, from where they were at the start of the season. Sudamericana would be good, would be a great end to the season. So to play like awful football, and they could have been like 6 or 7-0 losers on that day, is quite disappointing to hear, really, because it sounds like they've kind of given up a little bit. I mean, they haven't been on great form, have they? Let's be honest. Only 1 win in 5 games. I think, ultimately they were right to stick with Ronaldo Gaucho. But I think that, like you said, you put it right, really. They're just fizzling out, aren't they, basically? They're just fizzling out to nothing. I think, the goals from Martin Braithwaite have really, really helped since he's come in. Like with Depay for Corinthians, Braithwaite is doing his own job at Gremio, and he's got 6 goals and 2 assists. So he's weighed in like Memphis has for his team with goals, and he's elevated them up from a real perilous position. So I think they've got it sounds to me like they've kind of settled for what they've got. It's a little bit disappointing that, because they haven't yet got that, have they? So, they need to just kick on and make sure they get that, and then they can look forward to a better season next time round.
Yeah, they'll want to better what's gone on here. It'd be interesting to see if they do stick with Ronaldo Gaucho. Obviously, you got them the second last year based on a lot of Luis Suarez genius, but perhaps they'll see whether they can ride it off as a blip and come back with a bit of a title push next year. But they need to stay up before they do that.
Well, they do, but the thing is, they're not completely out. They're only 3 points above the relegation zone, so they need to really keep their eye on things and not take it off. I think there's a game against Juventude on Wednesday, which is huge. Not only being a kind of localish derby, isn't it? But it's a relegation kind of thing.
Well, Juve will go ahead of them if they win that. So.
Exactly. So they've got to really keep an eye on. And like I said, you mentioned Luis Suarez, who Nato Gaucho did rely on heavily last season. Maybe Martin Braithwaite can be that man, given a full season in the Brazil around next time, to give them, a better finish than they've got now. So let's wait and see. But yeah, definitely got to keep an eye on them still. They're within they're messing around a little bit there. But I kind of hope, again, you want the bigger teams in to stay up, don't you? So I hope that they can push themselves over the line and stay up. Because let's be honest, there is, like we know, only 2. There's only really 2 positions for relegation up for grabs here, I would have said.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Braithwaite, I think, might have even followed Luis Suarez at Barcelona. So there's some parallel there. I don't think it went quite as well as Suarez in Barcelona, but he tried his best, I think. Anyway, that's a roundup done for the week, George. It's been a hectic week, and we seem to swap about those bottom kind of 8 or 9 places really as from week to week. So very much exciting. Like you said, we thought there was an international kind of pause. There is slightly for a few days, but the teams are playing again on Wednesday, so. I think Palmeiras are going to be without Estevao and that kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see how they handle that. But do you want to have a run through of the fixture list for the upcoming week?
Yeah, again, it would always be my pleasure, James. So we have like you said, there is a game on Saturday, actually. PR face Mighty Ngalo at 9:30. Then, like you said, into Wednesday, there is Corinthians host Cruzeiro at a really strange time of 2 p.m. UK time. There is also PR against Gio, Kachuma against Vitoria, RB Bragantino against Sao Paulo, all happening at 7:30. And then at 10 o'clock is Cuiabá Flamengo, Grêmio against Juventude, and Bahia against Palmeiras is at 11 p.m. UK time. And then Thursday, the 21st of November, Galo against Botafogo at 12:30 at midnight here. And then Vasco against Inter is 11 p.m. UK time. That finishes the match day. There's 9 games in this one, James.
It doesn't actually. There's a game on Saturday as well, which is Flu against Fortaleza. So it does actually finish on Saturday. So I think we're probably going to have to miss that one out and just cover those 9 that you mentioned there, and just miss out Flu and look at Flu in the next week, really. So like we said, it's a bit kind of all over the place. But yeah, there is that one just tacked on at the end. But yeah,
there's games as well, James, on that Saturday as well later on in the day, isn't there? So it's funny. Yeah, it's a funny sort of, like I said, it's a strange time of the season. They're trying to pack them all in, aren't they, and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's handy on here. There's a round fixture list rather than just the pure fixture, so you can see them as they come. But yeah, you're right. There's other games later on that Saturday too, which begins the next match week. So anyway, it's a game of the round time. There's a few tasty ones as ever. I mean, looking at the fixture list there, there's lots of ramifications, and obviously, George, there's an audition for a dress rehearsal, for the Libertadores final. Galo are playing Botafogo, so that'll be very interesting to see how those two kind of go into that one, approach that. Obviously, Fogo really need to win after that draw with Cuiabá. Galo could do with the points, and it'd be a big psychological edge for whoever can get a win there, you would have thought. So what are you looking at the fixture list? What are you going to pick out as your...
I mean, like you said, there's so many. There's a few here, James, to be fair. We mentioned Grêmio as well against Juventude, but given me looking at Juventude this week, I don't think I'll pick that one. There's also Kachuma against Vitoria, which is an interesting one as well, because Kachuma could leapfrog Vitoria with a win as well there. There's PR against Gio as well, which is, again, is a one down at the bottom. I think we all now seem to focus at the ones towards the bottom of the table, James, because there's a lot going on down there. But, to be honest with you, James, I'm going to pick the one you just mentioned, the dress rehearsal for the Libertadores. It's my team. I think Milito, to be honest with you, they've got a game against PR before this. I think, if we lose to PR, I think he's done. So I'm going to look at that one. I think it's a big week for Milito. It really is. If we lose against them, there are no wins in 6. Galo now lost the final. The Libertadores is a few weeks away. It's 2 weeks on Saturday, I think. So they've got a few games before that game happens. I initially thought they were going to just wait until the Libertadores and give him that time and give him the final, but I don't think they will. I think if we lose, I think he's done, and I think it's fair enough. So I want to see what happens, really, and see if he's gone at that stage. And he was quite happy with the draw last night at Flamengo, and that just says it all, really. So I know Hulk saying, they've got to be careful. They don't want to pay dearly or something like that for the shortcomings in the league, really. So they're only 6 points above the relegation zone, aren't they now? So yeah, it's a big week for him. So I'll take that one.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I think in that case, then I think let's focus on the top end of the table and let's focus on the title race. We spoke a bit about Bahia there and Rogério Ceni, so let's look a little bit more at those and I'll go with Bahia and Palmeiras. I think, like I said, Kachuma Vitoria is obviously an enormous game, and Grêmio as well, and PR badly need that win. But I think let's make it a title week, given that we're so close to the end, and I'll see if Bahia can finally correct their form and get back to a winning ways as well. So with an eye on everything that's going on, of course, let's cast our gaze up to the top, George. So Gallo, so Bahia playing Palmeiras at 11 p.m. on Wednesday, and just an hour and a half later, so virtually at the end of that game. So Fogo will know the result of that at some point, probably at half time. They'll get in and they'll have a look, they'll be checking the phone, see what the score is, so they'll know what they need. That could pile of pressure on if Palmeiras have won. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see all that and the dynamics of that, the way that works. So that's good. Lots to look forward to. As I said, it'll probably be Friday then, won't it, when we do come back next. And so just before we finish, let's have a look at a rundown of the table to see where everybody stands after all of that.
Yeah, of course, James. So first is Botafogo on 68. Second is Palmeiras on 64. Third is Fortaleza on 63. Fourth, Flamengo on 59. Fifth, Inter on 59. Sixth, Sao Paulo on 57. Seventh place, Cruzeiro on 47. Eighth is Bahia on 46. Ninth is Vasco on 43. In 10th position, James, Galo on 42. Corinthians are in 11th with 41. 12th is Grêmio on 39 points. 13th is Vitória on 38. 14th is Fluminense on 37. Also on 37 is Kashima in 15th position. And Juventude in 16th position, all on 37 points. Into relegation zone, James, 17th position RB Bragantino on 36. 18th is PR on 34. 19th is Cuiabá on 29. And done and dusted, surely, James, bottom of the table, GO on 26 points.
Yeah, they're not quite yet, but they could go. I think they can't go this time. They could go in the next two, I think. So they are very much down, and as are Cuiabá, really. Well, that's it, George. Another big step towards the end of the season. We're getting there, and, we've been all the way through it, and it's coming up to the climax time. So we're going to, see the way it falls, aren't we? And as we mentioned there, we were going to do a Serie B show during the international break. Obviously, that isn't going to come about now. But as we mentioned there, Santos have gone up at the first time of asking. So that is fantastic news for us, because it means, like you said, we like to cover the big teams. There's another big team going to be in the division, a very big team, really. They never should have gone down, but they are coming back up. And that's good news for us all. Mirassol and Novo Horizontino are almost there, 3 points ahead of Ceará. They need, I think, 3 points more to go up, and then it's a straight fight between Ceará and Sport Recife, who are level on points in fourth and fifth. So, yes, Serie B looking hot, George. We're not going to have a chance to cover it fully, but I think over the summer, over the winter break, we will perhaps have a bit more of a review of Serie B, perhaps.
Yeah, I think what we should do when in the off-season, James, winter break before the new season starts is, look at the teams that eventually come up, and I think we should do that this time and have a look at them in more detail, the 4 teams that have come up, and I'm sure we'll think of other things to work. Obviously, after the season, I'm sure we'll have a bit of a break, obviously being Christmas and everything as well, but then we're back into it. I think it must start again in April, so we'll be back into it with lead-up shows as well, and then into it again, so it all comes around. But nearly the end of the first season, like you said, James, I think we've got about five episodes left before we probably wrap up for the end of the season. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a review show and an awards show as well, I think, perhaps. So it's all to look forward to. Lots to get into, but you know what that noise means, George? That means we're wrapping up.
Absolutely, James. Well, it's been another great episode, hasn't it? And you've got to say, what a day, what a good time. Adios.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining us. See you next time. Bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight. Sway to the beat, make you feel so right. Song by song, our vibes, we're dancing in the heat. Go, go, go. Candy beats up in Brazil, go spread love in every way. In the sound of paradise, we're here to stay.